Hi, Cherry. We've talked a lot about what to look for when you're making a decision about choosing a breast pump. And one of those things, beyond flange sizes, which we talked about, controls on your pump, all those other functional things, is the idea between an open and a closed system. And when I mention this to moms and I talk about, is the system open or closed? Is the pump open or closed? They don't even understand that or know that this even exists. And I've seen so many questions about this, like what's the difference between an open and a closed system? So I want to be really clear about that so that you have a full understanding when you're making your decision about which breast pump to purchase and how to properly care for and take care of your breast pump. So what this means is that an open system means that when the milk is flowing down from the flange, the part that goes up against your breast, into the bottle, there's no barrier between your milk and the tubing. And what that means and what the implications are for that is that when the milk is flowing down, it can splash or even at times get sucked into the tubing, which then can later get sucked into your pump depending on the pump itself. And that can cause, the tubing to become dirty. It can cause mold growth in the tubing, bacteria in the tubing. So the tubing needs to be properly maintained and cleaned and monitored to see if there's anything in that tube and to follow the manufacturer's recommendations for proper cleaning. Now, this is a tubing, and you can see that a tubing is a very small, narrow passage, and so it can be quite difficult to get in there and scrub. You can't scrub the inside of a tubing, so there's different ways, whether they're boiling them, shooting alcohol through them, shooting running water through them. Different manufacturers will recommend different things on how to properly care for and clean your tubing, and ultimately, if you can't get it clean, my recommendation is that you throw them out and continue to replace your tubing as often as needed when you see anything collecting or growing within this tube. That's for an open tube, an open system. The difference between that and a closed system, and this is a closed system, and this is obviously the Evenflo Feeding pump, and I'm going to use that as a demonstration because this is the pump that I helped to create, and it's the one that I obviously endorse. And one of the first things when it came to designing this pump, and my question was, is it a closed system? Because that's the only kind of system that I would ever recommend for any of my clients. And yes, absolutely, it is a closed system. What this looks like is, you can see here that connected to the flange, there is tubing, and this is connected to your pump where air is sucking very strongly in this direction to create enough suction to get milk down into your bottle. But when you take this off, and I don't know if you can see this here, but there's a little barrier. This is called a diaphragm, and this little barrier, when put into this spot here, creates a complete seal. Okay, you can see a seal around the opening here so that when you click on your tubing and you connect it, milk can splash, but it can never enter your tubing, and that is what is considered a closed system. So that there's a complete barrier, your tubing, your pump, all of those things are completely safe. Nothing is going to get into this tubing, and in fact the instructions are that when you are done pumping, that you never wash the tubing, because even water getting inside here has the potential to grow things, and so we never encourage you to wash the tubing on a closed system. So you're really just washing your parts. Okay, so this is not only hygienic but it's also easier to maintain and a lot less time consuming than having to take care of and wash your tubing. I think this is one of the most important things to ask or look at when you're making a decision on breast pumps. To look at the system, compare them, and say, is this open or is this closed? Remember that when it comes to a closed system, the pump needs to be a good quality pump so that it can create enough suction because you're creating a vacuum here. And the Evenflo Feeding pump does just that, which is what I love about it. It maintains its suction levels even with a closed system in double mode, and it's one of the reasons why I highly recommend the pump. But whatever pump you decide to choose, I would definitely look at this as one of your most important features to make sure it has. Thanks so much.